Welcome back. It's time for Press Review, where we take a look at what's making headlines. And joining the discussion, we have John Kagusha, Honorable Speaker of the Nyeri County, as well as Bashir Suleiman, who's a lawyer. Welcome to the show, gents. Now, let's take a look at what's making headlines. And we start off with the Standard. This is a story that's quite related with our discussion later on, because we're talking about the efficacy of members of parliament and what their priorities are. But on today's top headline, top story for the Standard, we have women MPs in nasty fights over Ruto Raila, and this is what is being termed as bedroom politics. The leaders are scandalizing each other in a reckless push to carry favor with their political masters, privileging sexual innuendo over substance at public rallies. And we're having a quote here by NARC Kenya leader Martha Karua, who is saying the most unfortunate thing happening now is in the Kenyan political space is women parliamentarians agreeing with some agreeing to become praise choirs, seeking to succeed the current president. Well, it's quite interesting that this is how they've put it, but we have seen the teams that have been formed, the team Embrace, and we have the team Inua Dada, I think is the name. So what is your take on this particular story, as has been covered by the Standard as the top story today? Let's start with you, Suleiman.
I think clearly this is an indicator that the women leaders are losing focus. When we have two factions, one team Embrace and another team Inua Mama,
yes.
Clearly they seem to be forgetting their legislative role. Besides, we have very important bills that were never passed before the House.
Sure.
Bills that will be in the interest of the women of this country,
right,
who form the bigger, who form a huge chunk of the population. And worst of all, this is a time that Kenyans miss good leaders such as Mother Karua herself.
Absolutely.
Those who used to steer parliamentary processes properly with a keen interest in women affairs. But right now, when we have two factions of women groups, one supporting Raila and another supporting DP Ruto,
right,
both seem to have lost the focus. It's high time that the women leaders come together. They should exercise the legislative role, and they should equally convince us as Kenyans why we need to pass a law that would look into or give us an efficacy of the two-third concept that is enshrined in the Constitution of Kenya. Right. Equally, looking at Article 27 of the Constitution, we have a very important Constitution that has given elaborate powers and privileges to women. They should live up to that dream. So I think, again, on the other hand, this is the time that they should not just support a specific leader, but they should support one of their own.
Absolutely.
Yes,
now, Honorable Kagusha, what's your take on this one, as has been covered by the Standard?
Yeah, so I look at this story in three dimensions. The first two are quite positive. One is that if you look at these women who are in Team Inua Mama and Team Embrace, right, you find that there is a total mix of people from different political parties and from different regional blocks.
Yes.
And this tells us that our politics also maturing to an extent that we are able to embrace one another much more than we have done before. And the line which had been drawn in 2017 politics is actually thinning every day and fading. So, and to me that is good, because it shows that there's more interaction amongst our political class. The second positive thing I see is that women are also taking the forefront in pushing the political agenda in the country. For rather too long, women had been lagging behind. Right. They were not making any serious impact in the political landscape, especially in the large magnitude and the large numbers that we are seeing at this moment. And probably this position for the women rep has also come in handy to help our women also rise to the occasion. And of course, they are also elected members of parliament. I can also see a governor. This is a positive thing, even a senator there. Yeah. So it's a positive, actually 2 senators. It's a positive thing that is happening in our country, and something that I think need to be encouraged for women to really take part in politics. But the third thing, which I think is now negative, is where women tear on each other, they scandalize each other, and they are trying to prove the point that, or the fact that women can actually be their own worst enemies, and that is something that they have really been trying to push away. But you see, the kind of issues that I have had them raising on the political rallies, for example, one of the MPs, a woman MP, dismissed another one recently.
Yes.
And said that you should concentrate on going to look for a baby. And you wonder, is it only a woman who looks for a baby?
Yes.
I thought even the men should also be doing the same. So why should the men be on political rallies? They should also be somewhere also looking for babies because they married soon or recently. So the issue is that that is negative.
It is
to the extent
negative.
that women are tearing to each other, and to the extent that these women are not very sensitive to their own plight, and they have, in fact, entrenching the same things that they have been trying to fight for all these years.
Yes, so, you know, reinforcing certain ideas and stereotypes and attitudes towards women in politics that they should be moving far away from. And there's something I would like to read here, a statement was issued Laikipia, rather, women representative Kate Waruguru was caught on tape hurling unprintable words at Kirinyaga Governor Anne Waiguru, and she said, we have a woman who has not given birth. That's the comment you were talking about after her recent marriage, but she's busy telling us to wait for the birth of the BBI report. I mean, we would expect better from our leaders, right? And she further said, don't think because Jubilee assisted you to become the first woman governor in the region that you are now Wangu wa Makeri, which means the only female Kikuyu chief during the colonial, you know, era. I mean, we should
not only female
better.
Kikuyu chief, but also a female who would sit on the backs of men when she was addressing the public.
I mean, we are scraping the bottom of the jar when it comes to some of these tactics. And, well, they're not exclusive to women. We've heard men, politicians, making certain unprintable remarks, but clearly we shouldn't be going in this particular direction, should we?
I think this whole narrative, this whole two factions that we are having, Inua Mama and Team Embrace, for me, I do not see anything positive in this. They have started engaging themselves in premature politics, aligning themselves to a certain political leader. I think they are totally missing the point. For instance, my women rep from Garissa has been labeled Mama Ruto lately. At times, this begs the question that these members are supposed to focus on key parliamentary duties, such as questioning cabinet secretaries on the floor of the House, in line with the provisions under the standing orders. Our parliament they have quite a number of roles on the floor of the House. We have a number of pending bills. We have a number of laws that they're supposed to be working on in the interest of all Kenyans and the women also in general. I think clearly they're missing the point. This is not the time to politic, but rather the time to impact Kenyans. Equally, my expectation is for these women leaders to live up to the dream of proving to Kenyans why we need more women leaders. When they start aligning themselves to a certain political class or with a certain political leader, they totally miss the point.
And we're having Kandara MP Ali Sohome say, you see all these divisions are brought about by the confusion from the BBI, and men started these exchanges. Why would women remain silent when they are insulted? I mean, you know, justifying such behavior, is this the way to go politically speaking?
No, it's not actually. And even the BBI itself. What's so much about BBI? I mean, it's not even launched. We do not even have the BBI report. So we really cannot, you know, justify that kind of an approach and attacks on each other based on the fact that men do it. If you are women, why can't you do it better? Because you've been trying to get this political space. Once you have this space, use it well. I've heard actually most of the women are very quick to use sexist remarks and examples. I have been to several rallies where I have had a woman standing and saying, you know, we have been pregnant with this and that. We are about to... And again, all those sexist kind of comments and remarks are not necessarily positive because they tend to belittle women. They tend to lower their dignity. And now when women use them, it's like they're giving men a reason.
The green flag.
Yeah, and through us now to be using those kind of remarks. So I think they need to be careful about how they approach each other. Let people be a bit more creative.
Yeah, true.
There are not so many men who would actually use those kind of remarks. The late Michuki tried once. And the women flooded the city, of course ferried by one of the women leaders. And his biggest problem was that he had used a negative or a derogatory comment on women. But if you now look at what he had said and compare to what the women themselves are saying, that was child play.
Yes.
And now what we're seeing now is the real thing. And I think it's something that these women need to be careful about. They need to retain that respect. They need to ensure that there is a no-go zone. There is a basic minimum that we cannot, bare minimum that we can go below.
There are lines we need to be, and we know that the younger generation is looking up to these female leaders, so it's important. While there are examples such as that Kenya leader, as Bashir put it, who have, you know, maintained a certain decorum throughout their political careers, we need to be doing better, I think. And joining the conversation, Executive Director, Siasa Place, Nerima Wako, we were focusing on the story of, on the top page of the Standard, women MPs in nasty fights over Ruto, Raila, and we're having a comment here by now Kenyan leader Martha Karua saying the most uncomfortable thing happening now is the Kenyan political space is women agreeing to become praise choirs for male groupings seeking to succeed the current president. But that is not the issue. It's more the language, the attacks, what is being said to one another by these female politicians that I think is of more concern above all else. What's your take on how female political leadership is handling matters right now?
Good morning.
Good morning.
I believe it's very difficult to be in the political space and a woman. It's already difficult enough. But then when you read such headlines about how women are fighting over men, or even on the side where it talks about bedroom politics,
you know,
we already live in a society where it's so patriarchal. So to be able to understand women or understand women in leadership, we sexualize it. And it's even more saddening to see women now regurgitate that.
Yes.
But I do agree with Martha Karua's sentiments completely.
Yeah.
Because when you think of Martha Karua, when you think of what she's done politically, this is one woman who walked out on Moi.
Yeah.
And she walked out on Moi
famously.
alone.
Yeah.
Alone. And so she's living proof that you do not have to belong to a group that has to sing behind men, like she's saying, like a choir, or follow behind the rallying call of men to be able to succeed politically. But I do think that there are a lot of young women who are entering the space politically that are bold, that stand for records, that stand for service, and not necessarily standing for sycophancy. I think we need to move past that and be more concerned about what political leaders are bringing to the table, and not necessarily ethnic tribal voting or clusters where it appears to be supporting individuals that we don't even understand what they stand for.
And the said BBI is not report, as Honorable Kagusha says, it's not even out yet. So what is this that is keeping us so busy? And
with uniform.
Yeah, with uniform and I mean, it's crazy. But the efficacy of our legislators is something that we're going to be focusing on in our next segment on Political Point. But let's shift gears to, I'd like to draw your attention